Hello and welcome once again. This is Dr. Pauline Baird, cultural bearer from the village of Buxton, Guyana. And as you know, I tell stories about my village, about our family histories, our whispered stories, our hidden practice, and sometimes long forgotten traditions. Today I have a new story for you in this new episode in season 2 of What Dih Story Seh. What Dih Story Seh? Loud Talk Story. I want to bring a series to you this month called My Travel Book. As you know, I was born in the village, but I left the village when I was an adult to travel overseas, to go to school mostly, and having left to study, my feet took to wandering and I ended up in some interesting places in the world. So one of the places I've been to was called Palau. Palau is in the Pacific. It's one chain of islands, beautiful, one of the most beautiful places in the world. The underwater is magnificent. The water is pristine and warm. Every time it's warm, you can jump in and swim like that. You can also see to the bottom of the ocean from the land. You can stand up and look down and see the fish and turtle and so many things, blue fish, green fish. I mean, you'd never seen things like that in your life. Talk about the diving. Awesome, fantastic. I heard it's one of the best in the world and it rivals the Great Barrier Reef. And this girl from the village lived there for about 9 years. Okay, so let's talk about this travel book. Now, one day I found myself on a boat with some people. And these people are called the Palauans. A person from Palau is called a Palauan. And they were brown like me, and in the distance, if I saw a Palauan, at times I felt I was a black person, a person from the village, because they have, you know, African features, they're dark skinned, and they have all kinds, all ranges of colors. Some look like Douglas, some look like Portuguese, some look like Indian, some look like Boc people, all of that. So I was quite at home, but there weren't many black people like me there. They were brown like me. All right, so I found myself on this boat. This boat got 2 Yamaha engines in the back, so you can imagine. This is not a canoe, this is boat. And we're going out to what you call the Rock Islands. And the Rock Islands are these islands that spring up out of the ocean, entirely on coral rock. And I like to say they're manicured like broccoli. So beautiful. And in the evenings, it's wonderful to watch the white birds, you know, go back to their nesting across the ocean. And in some parts near where we lived, the ocean would be placid and you would see canoes just going by. Awesome. So I was on this boat this day, going with some people to a faraway island called the Rock Islands. This is a girl from the village of Buxton who knows to swim in trench, but really can't swim for save sheer life. All right, these people use the water like they use land. They could navigate the water like they navigate the land. And the children, oh my goodness, they're like a water baby. They jump in the ocean, out the ocean. Since they see water, they're gone. And we used to have picnics at the ocean and on the islands, right? So this day I was on this boat, these men were catching fish. And I noticed that they would drive the boat into a flock of birds, like somewhere in the middle of this ocean, you could see a spot. And this spot would have birds hovering. There's no land anywhere, just ocean as far as you could see. And they would turn the boats around sometimes and drive right into this where the birds were hovering. And that meant there were fish there. Now, I'm a girl from Buxton Front. My grandmother lived there, Brush Dam Front, so I know about birds and the ocean. When you see birds, you know there are fish there. So that was quite, you know, something familiar for me. And the fish was there, and I'd come to see the men would, you know, they would throw the line out, and then they would get the fish, and they would start speaking in Palauan, and they would speak, and they would reel it in. Excitement. And what I saw next blew me away. After a while, I would hear them talking excitedly, and then one brought out a bowl, and this bowl had soy sauce and onion chopped up inside. And then they put in the hot pepper, and they're going, they're talking. I didn't understand the language. And then they got this big tuna, and they took out this knife, and my eye popped open, because they started to skin this tuna. They started to fillet this tuna, and they chop it up on the boat bench. And then they start dunking it inside and start eat just so. Just so. Them not cook this fish at all. Them start eat this fish just so. So me, I open big so. I said, well, I never see nothing like this. This can't work a village. Or where them people just come from and eat raw fish just so? Well, I come to understand that raw fish is called sashimi. Sashimi. And don't get it twisted. Some people just call sushi sashimi. Not so. The raw fish is called the sashimi. So they start to work it up so. Some of them take the sashimi, they wash it out in the ocean so. Remember this ocean clean bad, you know? They clean it so. They wriggle it up so. Then they dip it inside that. And they start to eat. One of them say, they call me Baulin. The P is a big sound. Baulin. Say, hi. You want some? No, no, no. But I wasn't rude. I just said no because I'd never seen that before. So, these people, I thought to myself, this is something I got to write home and tell somebody about this thing. And I said, if I write home and tell someone, they would never believe me. I don't think they would have believed me. But you see, I wasn't so shocked by it. I was just surprised to see it because when I was a girl of 8, 9, and 10, I had read books that talked about these things, or people would eat raw fish and so on. But I had a different idea. I used to think that they just take the whole fish and bite the fish. No, no, no. So, after a while, they were doing that. I thought to myself, I wonder if I try this thing, how it could taste. Then one of my friends, she was an African-American young woman, she was eating it, and I thought, what this African-American girl eat this fish for? So I asked her how it tastes. She said it tastes good, but I didn't believe because I was thinking this fish would eat gummy, it would eat stringy. I had ideas about it. I had some preconceived ideas. And you see, that's the thing about preconception. When you're experiencing another culture, and you're going with your preconceptions and you don't break them down, you can lose the experience. And I always tell my niece, when you go abroad, you go for the experience. Don't tell me don't eat this and you don't eat that. You got to try to know that you really don't eat that. So I decided I'm going to try this thing. So we had some pieces of coconut. And I took a little piece of the fish, little ticks and so, with a piece of coconut, and I ate the thing. But I couldn't taste the fish. And I said, I can't really tell how this fish tastes. I asked her, you sure this thing tastes good? She said, yes, it tastes good. So, me and the Bostonian decided, well, I'm going to try this thing. So, mouth first, I took a big piece and put it in my mouth. And I expected to spit it out and for it to taste funny and to have a negative experience. But I was pleasantly surprised. This fish was like melt in your mouth goodness. It tasted as if it had flavor, like if you had flavored it with something. In Japan they say umai, umai. It's not salt, it's not sweet, it's not sour, it's not bitter. There is something in there, they call it umai. It is something like, you know, mushrooms give that flavor, but it wasn't quite that way. I really can't tell you, but it was not unpleasant. This thing was melt in your mouth good. And so that's the first time I ate this sashimi. I was not grossed out. And what I learned about the Palauans is they have a very keen sense of people. They can tell by your body language what kind of person you are. And I guess for the most part, maybe they felt I was genuine and honest and authentic because I didn't get negative feedback from them, or I was accepted. I feel like I was one of them. They made me feel at home. They love me. I love them. And I think I want to say it's my reaction to their culture. Because one of the first things I learned that living there, I had gone there to have an experience. And I didn't go there to change myself, to make myself a Palauan. I'm not a Palauan. They invited me there for me to bring my culture and myself, and I brought that. And when I ate the raw fish, I started to think that this is a cross-cultural learning experience. And I gathered that we live differently, but there are a lot of commonalities that our differences didn't make us alienated or alien from each other. One of the first things I realized that we both had an understanding of how to read the land and how we practice our traditions on the land. They read the land and the water by the birds, and we did the same thing. We know that when the birds are in the Atlantic Ocean, among the big boulders, they're looking for fish, and they do the same thing. But our thing, fishermen use that for their livelihood. If the Palauans have to fish, they depend on their lives and from the livelihoods from the ocean. They fish, the men fish predominantly, and they would share to their families and live that way. So there's more at stake for a Palauan with the water and the fish than it is for the Buxonian at the ocean. But we are a land of many waters, Guyana, and so we understand the role of the water in our livelihood. Yes, so the water is vital for Palauans. And when I look at this experience, I realize that it enhanced my own knowledge about the norms and values of others. And why some behaviors exist. I tell you one thing. There was this guy named Endamo. He used to call himself Dr. Fish. One time he took me fishing nighttime, and I was catching fish like crazy. After a while, he stopped me from fishing. He got a little mad at me. And he didn't want me to fish anymore because I was out fishing them. And when I realized that he took me fishing, that is not something that women don't really fish. They can fish, but it's not expected that a woman should be a fisherman or a fisherwoman. That's a man's role. So when he invited me, he was inviting me for an experience. And I let go because I knew that I was breaking a sort of norm and things like that. And they value women and value their roles. So looking back, this experience helps me to have an appreciation of my own self-awareness and an awareness of other people's culture and an appreciation of cultural differences. Differences that don't have to make us alien from each other. Differences can bring us together and make you a much richer person. So I say thanks to the Palauans for that experience. And this is story number 1 in my travel book. How have you traveled, and how have the differences impacted your life? And to the little ones who are watching, I want you to dream. Dream of travel. There's lots to experience. There are lots of things to experience. Yawa good, and I'm going to tell you the other experience in Palau with the fish. Okay? Good.